I am Brenda Tilley, 29, and just last month my role as the family peacemaker? Yeah, it totally backfired. The house my grandmother left me, the one I'd poured my heart into preserving, it blew up into a full-on betrayal on a European vacation I paid for. My parents, Gordon and Marla Tilley, straight up demanded I hand over the deed, and when I hesitated, the room went dead silent. "You're holding us back," Gordon yelled, with my sister Trudy smirking like she'd won a prize. But here's the tea. Their cruelty didn't break me, it lit a fire. I'm not just pushing back. I'm about to flip the script and change everything. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, hit subscribe, and stay with me for the most satisfying revenge you'll ever hear. Looking back, it's almost wild. You wouldn't believe what I did once I overheard their real plan. It was our third night in Barcelona, the air thick with sangria and sea salt. I'd splurged on this trip thinking it'd mend our fractured family. Gordon and Marla had been distant, but I chalked it up to stress. Trudy, as usual, soaked up their praise for her brilliant part-time boutique job. I was in my hotel room, scrolling through emails, when I heard their voices through the thin balcony wall. "Brenda's such a burden," Marla hissed. "That house should be ours." My stomach dropped. Gordon agreed, his voice low. "We'll convince her it's for her own good." Trudy giggled, suggesting they guilt me into signing it over. I froze, my phone slipping from my hand. A burden? Me, who'd funded this entire trip? My chest tightened, but I didn't cry. Instead, I grabbed my laptop, heart pounding, and started searching for realtors back home. I wasn't just hurt. I was done. The next morning I played along, smiling at breakfast while Marla rambled about family unity. Her eyes darted to me, calculating as she sipped her coffee. Gordon patted my hand, his grip too tight, and said, "You know, Brenda, that house is a lot for you to handle." I nodded, biting my tongue, but inside I was already 10 steps ahead. By noon, I'd emailed a realtor named Vernon Haskins, who promised a quick, discreet sale. My fingers trembled as I typed, but each word felt like reclaiming power. I wasn't the burden. They were. That night, I lay awake, replaying their words. The house wasn't just brick and mortar, it was Gran's legacy, her trust in me. I remembered her calloused hands, her stories of saving every penny to buy it. Now my parents wanted to snatch it, probably to fund Trudy's next business venture. I clenched my fists, staring at the ceiling. No way was I letting them win. I'd sell the house, move their stuff to storage, and cut them off. The plan felt reckless, but right. As the moon glowed through the curtains, I whispered to myself, "This ends now." I didn't know how I'd face them tomorrow, but I knew one thing. Brenda Tilley wasn't their doormat anymore. The Barcelona sun was relentless the next day, but I felt colder than ever, their words still echoing, "Burden, ours." As I sipped coffee at a cafe, pretending to enjoy the trip, my mind drifted to the years I'd spent invisible to Gordon and Marla. Growing up, I was the kid who'd rather fix things than break them. At 16, I organized a neighborhood fundraiser to save our community center, raising $10,000. The local paper ran a story, but at dinner, Marla barely glanced up from her plate. "That's nice, Brenda," she said, then gushed about Trudy's cheerleading trophy. Gordon nodded along, tossing Trudy an extra slice of pie. My chest ached, but I swallowed it, thinking I'd earn their pride someday. By 20, I was working 2 jobs to pay for college while Trudy got a car for trying hard at her retail gig. I graduated with honors, landed a solid marketing job, and still, nothing. Last Christmas, I gifted Gordon and Marla a paid-off mortgage on their second car. Marla hugged me, but later I overheard her tell Trudy, "It's just Brenda showing off." Trudy's bold plan to sell handmade scarves? That got a family toast. My hands tightened around my mug now, the cafe's chatter fading. I'd spent years chasing their approval, but they'd built a shrine to Trudy's mediocrity. Back then I'd shrug it off, thinking family meant taking the hit. But now, at 29, their betrayal in Barcelona cracked something open. I remembered Gran's funeral, how Marla whispered to Gordon about getting the house while I sobbed. I'd ignored it, too raw to process. Now it was clear, they'd always seen me as a means to an end. My phone buzzed, a reply from Vernon, the realtor. "Can list the house tomorrow," he wrote. My pulse raced. Selling Gran's house felt like betraying her, but letting them steal it? That'd be worse. I glanced at Trudy across the cafe, laughing with Marla over some influencer's post. Her earrings glinted, probably bought with my trip money. Gordon joined them, his loud chuckle grating. They hadn't noticed me slip away. I typed back to Vernon, "Do it." My finger hovered over send, heart hammering. This wasn't just about the house. It was about every time they'd dismissed me, every moment I'd felt less than. I hit send, my breath catching. The waiter dropped a plate nearby, and I flinched, but no one looked my way. Walking back to the hotel, I passed a street artist sketching a family. The parents beamed at their kid, and I looked away, throat tight. I'd spent my life trying to be that kid, but Gordon and Marla never saw me. Now they'd lose what they wanted most, not because I was cruel, but because I was done being their pawn. The house was mine to protect, and I'd do it my way. Tomorrow I'd keep playing their game, smiling through their fake concern. But inside, I was already free, plotting a future they couldn't touch. Back in the hotel, the Barcelona night buzzed outside, but I was locked in, laptop glowing, my decision to sell Gran's house burning in my chest. It hit me like a freight train that afternoon, walking past a cathedral's stained glass. Their words, burden hours, looping in my head. I couldn't let Gordon and Marla win. Selling the house wasn't just escape, it was survival. I'd called Vernon Haskins, the realtor, from a quiet alley, voice shaking but firm. "I need it sold fast, no trace," I said. He didn't ask questions, just promised to handle it discreetly. By midnight I was wiring him documents, my fingers trembling as I signed away Gran's legacy to protect it. The process was a blur of adrenaline and guilt. Vernon worked fast, finding a buyer, a retired couple, within 48 hours. I refreshed my email obsessively, heart lurching each time a new message pinged. Marla knocked once, asking if I was okay through the door, her tone syrupy. I mumbled, "Fine," and locked it, my stomach twisting. The sale wasn't just logistics, it was a rebellion against every time they'd made me feel small. I remembered Gran's voice. "You're tougher than they know, Brenda." I clung to that, picturing her nod of approval as I typed final approvals. The toughest part was the secrecy. I'd slip into the hotel bathroom to take Vernon's calls, muffling my voice while Trudy blasted music next door. Once, Gordon almost caught me, banging on the door as I hung up mid-sentence. "What are you hiding?" he barked. I lied about a work call, my pulse hammering, but he bought it, muttering about my attitude. Each close call sharpened my resolve. I wasn't just selling a house, I was carving out my freedom. By the trip's 4th day, Vernon sent the final contract. I stared at the number, 450,000, my hands shaking. It was done. The money was mine, wired to a new account they'd never touch. I leaned back, the room spinning. Guilt gnawed. Gran's house was her pride, her gift to me. But keeping it meant letting them manipulate me forever. I whispered, "I'm sorry, Gran," and shut the laptop. The relief was heavy, like shedding a weight I'd carried for years. I'd done it alone, no applause, no family toast. Just me, Brenda Tilley, outsmarting their greed. I hid the confirmation email in a locked folder, my secret armor. At breakfast the next morning, Marla prattled about family plans for the house, her smile tight. Gordon watched me, eyes narrowing as I buttered my toast too calmly. Trudy whined about needing a new car, glancing at me like I owed her. I smiled back, my heart steady now. They had no idea the ground had shifted. The house was gone, the money safe, and I was already planning my next move, storage for their stuff. A new city, a clean break. As Marla droned on, I sipped my coffee, feeling taller. For the first time, I wasn't their burden, I was their reckoning, and they'd never see it coming. The final night in Barcelona felt like a tightrope walk, the city's lights mocking the storm inside me. Dinner was at a rooftop restaurant, all clinking glasses and fake laughs, but I was barely there, my phone burning a hole in my pocket with Vernon's final email. Sale complete, funds transferred. I'd done it. Sold Gran's house right under their noses. Gordon raised a glass, toasting family strength, his eyes flicking to me with that same calculating glint. Marla nodded along, her smile sharp, while Trudy scrolled Instagram, oblivious. I forced a grin, my stomach churning, knowing this was the last time I'd play their game. As waiters cleared plates, Marla leaned in, her perfume cloying. "Brenda, we've been thinking about the house," she said, voice sugary. "It's such a burden for you, isn't it?" Gordon chimed in. "We could manage it for your sake." My fork froze midair. They were laying the trap right here, with sangria and sea breeze as props. Trudy glanced up, smirking, like she knew the script. I mumbled, "I'll think about it," my voice steady but my pulse racing. Inside, I was screaming, "It's gone. You're too late." Back in my room, I locked the door and sank onto the bed, the weight of it all crashing down. I opened Vernon's email again, staring at the confirmation. The buyers were moving in next week. I'd already hired a moving company to pack Gordon and Marla's stuff. Clothes, furniture, Trudy's tacky decor, into storage. They'd get a key and an address, nothing else. My fingers hovered over my phone, tempted to call my friend Sally, my rock back home, but I stopped. This was mine to carry, at least for now. I pulled up flights instead, booking a one-way to Seattle for next month. A new start, far from their reach. I stood, pacing, my reflection catching in the mirror. My jaw was tight, eyes tired but sharp. I wasn't the Brenda they'd dismissed anymore. I remembered Gran's laugh, how she'd say, "Don't let 'em dim you, kid." Selling her house hurt, but losing myself to their greed would have been worse. I slipped my phone into my bag, zipping it shut, like I was sealing my resolve. Tomorrow we'd fly home, and I'd keep up the act, dodge their questions, smile through their jabs. But the second we landed, I'd be gone. At breakfast, Gordon was already probing. "You sleep okay, Brenda? You seemed off last night." His tone was casual, but his eyes were hawk-like. Marla sipped her juice, watching me over the rim. "Just tired," I said, buttering a croissant, my hand steady. Trudy whined about the flight, oblivious as ever. I nodded along, my mind elsewhere, on the storage unit, the Seattle apartment, the life I was building. They thought they were cornering me, but I'd already slipped free. As we boarded the plane, Marla squeezed my arm, whispering, "We'll talk about the house soon." I smiled, cold and calm. Good luck with that, I thought, buckling my seatbelt. The game was over and I'd won. The plane landed in Chicago, and the weight of home hit me like a slap. Gordon, Marla, and Trudy were all smiles in the cab, chatting about settling things with the house, their voices dripping with fake warmth. I stared out the window, nodding when needed, my hands clenched in my lap. Back at their place, a squat, beige, split level I'd always hated. The air was thick with expectation. They thought they had me cornered. Dinner was set for that evening, a welcome home charade, but I knew it was their stage to push me into signing over Gran's house. My phone buzzed with a text from Sally. "You okay?" I typed, "Later," and shoved it in my pocket, steeling myself. At the dining table, the onslaught began. Marla passed the mashed potatoes, her smile tight. "Brenda, you've been so quiet since Spain," she said, her tone probing. Gordon cut his steak, eyes on me. "Yeah, kid, what's with the attitude? That house stressing you out?" Trudy snorted, twirling her fork. "She's probably just mad it's too much for her." I gripped my glass, the lemonade too sweet, my throat tight. Their words were darts, each one sharper, meant to chip away at me. I forced a shrug. "Just jet-lagged," I said, but my jaw ached from clenching. Marla leaned forward, her earrings glinting. "Sweetie, we're worried. That house is a lot for someone like you." The pause was deliberate, her eyes scanning me like I was a problem to solve. Gordon nodded. "We could take it off your hands, make it easier." Trudy chimed in. "Yeah, Brenda, you don't need all that space." I stared at my plate, the peas blurring. They were circling, their condescension a rehearsed performance. My fingers twitched, itching to pull out my phone and show them the sale confirmation, but I held back. Not yet. I took a slow bite of chicken, chewing to buy time. "I'm managing," I said, voice flat. Gordon's fork clinked hard against his plate. "Managing? You're barely keeping up. We're family, let us help." His help sounded like a threat, his knuckles white around his knife. Marla reached for my hand, her touch cold. "It's for your own good, Brenda." I pulled back, my chair scraping. Their faces froze, and for a second I saw their panic. I wasn't crumbling. Trudy broke the silence, laughing. "God, Brenda, why are you so stubborn?" I met her eyes, her smirk faltering. I stood, grabbing my coat. "I need air," I muttered, heading for the door. Gordon called after me, "This isn't over," but I didn't look back. Outside, the November chill bit my cheeks, and I leaned against a tree, breath fogging. They thought they could bully me into submission, but every jab made me surer. The house was gone, the money safe, and their stuff was already in storage. I patted my phone, where the recording of their Barcelona plot waited. Tonight wasn't the end. It was the warm-up. I'd face them again, and when I did, they'd learn Brenda Tilly wasn't their pawn anymore. The cold air cleared my head, but I knew I had to go back inside. Gordon and Marla weren't done with me. I slipped back into the house, the dining room now dim, the table cleared except for a bottle of wine and 4 glasses. Marla sat rigid, her lips pursed, while Gordon paced, his heavy steps thudding. Trudy lounged, scrolling her phone, but her eyes flicked up as I entered. The air was thick, like the moment before a storm breaks. I dropped into my chair, my coat still on, and braced myself. This wasn't dinner anymore, it was their endgame. Gordon stopped pacing, looming over the table. "Brenda, we're done with games," he said. Voice low, each word clipped. Marla nodded, folding her hands. "You're not capable of handling that house, and frankly, you're a burden to this family." The word hit like a punch, same as in Barcelona, but now it was deliberate, meant to shatter me. Trudy smirked, muttering, "Told you she'd screw it up." I stared at my hands, nails digging into my palms, the pain grounding me. They thought this was checkmate. Marla slid a document across the table, a deed transfer, my name glaring in bold. "Sign it," she said, her tone final. "We'll take care of everything." Gordon leaned in, his breath sour with wine. "You owe us, Brenda. After all we've done, you can't keep dragging us down." My heart pounded, but I didn't touch the paper. I saw Gran's face, her proud smile when she handed me the keys. This was their plan all along, strip me of her gift, her trust. I swallowed, my throat dry, and looked up. "I'm not signing," I said, voice steady. Gordon's face reddened. "What did you say?" Marla's eyes narrowed, her fingers twitching. "Brenda, don't be selfish, this is for the family." Trudy laughed, sharp and mean. "God, you're so pathetic." I stood, chair scraping, my hands trembling but my resolve iron. "You don't get to decide what's mine," I said. Gordon slammed his fist on the table, the wine bottle wobbling. "You're out, Brenda, no house, no family, nothing." Marla nodded, cold. "You're on your own." I grabbed my bag, my chest tight but my steps sure. "Fine," I said, meeting their eyes one by one. Gordon's rage, Marla's calculation, Trudy's glee. They thought they'd won. I paused at the door, hand on the knob, their words echoing. Burden, selfish, out. I wanted to scream, to throw the sale in their faces, but I held back. The recording, the money, my plan, they'd learn soon enough. I stepped into the night, the door clicking shut behind me. My phone buzzed. Sally again. "Need me?" I typed, "Tomorrow," and kept walking, the streetlights blurring. They'd disowned me, but I wasn't broken. I was free, and the next move was mine. Their stuff was in storage, the house was sold, and I was done playing their victim. The night air stung as I walked away from Gordon and Marla's house, their words, burden, out, ringing in my ears. I ducked into a diner a few blocks away, the neon sign buzzing, and slid into a booth, my hands still shaking. The smell of burnt coffee and grease grounded me. I pulled out my phone, staring at the screen when it rang. Vernon Haskins, the realtor. My heart lurched. I answered, hunching over to keep my voice low. "Brenda, it's final," he said, calm but firm. "Buyers signed today. Funds are in your account." I exhaled, the weight of it hitting me. $450,000, mine, untouchable. I leaned back, the vinyl booth creaking, and let it sink in. At the exact moment Gordon disowned me, the sale locked in. Like fate was laughing at their plan. I opened my banking app, the balance staring back, $451,236.14. My fingers brushed the screen, almost afraid it'd vanish. But it was real. I'd outplayed them. The waitress, a tired woman named Flo, refilled my water, her eyes kind but uninterested. I nodded thanks, my mind racing. They thought they'd cornered me, but I'd been steps ahead. Then I remembered the recording. In Barcelona, after overhearing their plot, I'd left my phone on the balcony, capturing every word. Marla's burden, Gordon's scheme, Trudy's giggles. I pulled it up now, the audio crystal clear, their voices venomous. My thumb hovered over play, my pulse spiking. This was my ace, proof of their betrayal. I imagined their faces if I sent it to them, but no. Not yet. I needed to confront them my way, on my terms. I sipped my water, the ice clinking, and pictured Gran's nod. "You're tougher than they know." I texted Sally, "Meet me tomorrow, big news." She replied instantly, "Always here." Sally, my chosen family, would get it, unlike Marla, who'd fake tears, or Gordon, who'd rage. I paid for my coffee, leaving Flo a $20 tip, and stepped outside. The diner's glow faded behind me as I walked to my car, parked a street over. My phone buzzed again. A voicemail from Marla. "Brenda, come back, we can talk." Her voice was syrupy, but I deleted it, my jaw tight. Talk? They'd said enough. I drove to a cheap motel, the kind with flickering signs and thin walls, and checked in. Lying on the stiff bed, I stared at the ceiling, the sale's finality washing over me. I wasn't just free of the house, I was free of them. Their stuff was in storage, the key mailed to their address. They'd find out soon, but not tonight. Tonight I held the power, the money, the recording, the truth. My eyes burned, not from sadness but from clarity. Gordon's fist on the table, Marla's cold stare, Trudy's smirk, they'd underestimated me. Tomorrow I'd face them one last time, and they'd see Brenda Tilley wasn't their doormat. She was their reckoning. Morning came sharp and cold, the motel room's thin curtains no match for the Chicago sun. I sat on the bed, phone in hand, the recording of Gordon, Marla, and Trudy's Barcelona plot looping in my head. Today was it, the final face-off. I drove to their house, my hand steady on the wheel, the storage unit key in my pocket. They'd disowned me last night, thinking they'd won, but I had the money, the truth, and a plan. I parked across the street, watching the house. Marla's car was gone, but Gordon's truck and Trudy's sedan were there. Good enough. I knocked, my knuckles firm, and Trudy opened the door, her smirk fading when she saw my face. "What do you want?" she snapped, leaning against the frame. I pushed past her, stepping into the living room. Gordon sat on the couch, coffee mug in hand, his eyes narrowing. "Brenda, you got some nerve," he growled, setting the mug down hard. I didn't sit. "We're talking now," I said, voice calm but iron. Trudy hovered, arms crossed, her nails tapping her elbow. I pulled out my phone, the recording cued. "You thought you could bully me out of Gran's house?" I said, locking eyes with Gordon, his jaw tightened. "You're delusional," he spat. Trudy laughed, but it was nervous. I pressed play. Marla's voice filled the room. "Brenda's such a burden." Then Gordon. "We'll convince her it's for her own good." Trudy's giggle followed, cruel and clear. Their faces froze, Gordon's mouth half open, Trudy's eyes wide. The recording ended and silence crushed the room. "You plotted to steal what Gran gave me," I said, pocketing the phone. "But you're too late, the house is sold." Gordon stood, fists clenched. "You did what?" I didn't flinch. "Sold it. Money's mine. Your stuff's in storage, keys on its way." Trudy gasped. "You can't do that." I turned to her, cold. "I did. You called me a burden, now you're on your own." Gordon's face reddened, veins bulging. "You ungrateful?" I cut him off. "Ungrateful? I paid for your vacation while you schemed." I stepped toward the door, their shock hanging heavy. "You're not family," I said, voice low. "Family doesn't betray like that." Gordon lunged forward, but Trudy grabbed his arm, her eyes darting like a trapped animal's. I kept going. "You'll get the storage address, don't contact me." I walked out, the door slamming behind me, their stunned silence louder than any yell. My heart pounded, but my steps were sure. I'd exposed their hypocrisy, and it felt like fire, clean, unstoppable. In the car, I exhaled, hands trembling now. I'd done it, faced them, played the recording, and walked away. They'd scramble, maybe rage, but they had nothing left to hold over me. I started the engine, the street blurring as I drove toward Sally's place. The weight of their betrayal was still there, but it was lighter now, replaced by something new. Power. Brenda Tilley wasn't their victim anymore. She was free. And they'd never forget it. The drive to Sally's apartment felt like crossing a border, the weight of Gordon and Marla's stunned faces fading with each mile. Sally lived in a cozy walk-up, all mismatched furniture and warm lights, a world away from the cold beige of my parents' house. I knocked, and she opened the door, her curly hair a mess, her smile instant. "Brenda, get in here," she said, pulling me into a hug before I could speak. I dropped my bag, the tension in my shoulders loosening. Sally wasn't just a friend, she was my chosen family, the one who'd always seen me. We sank onto her couch, a steaming mug of tea in my hands, and I spilled everything, the Barcelona betrayal, the secret sale, the recording, the confrontation. Sally's eyes widened, her fingers tightening around her own mug. "They called you a burden?" she said, voice sharp. "And plotted to steal Gran's house? Brenda, that's vile." I nodded, staring at the steam curling from my tea. "Yeah, but I got them back. Sold it, cut them off." Sally leaned forward, grinning. "That's my girl, you flipped the script." She stood, grabbing a plate of cookies from the kitchen, and plopped back down. "Okay, but how are you feeling?" she asked, her voice softer now. I paused, crumbling a cookie. "Free but raw. They disowned me, Sal, and I walked away." My throat tightened, but I didn't cry. Sally reached for my hand, her grip steady. "They don't deserve you, never did." Her words sank in, warm and solid, so different from Marla's fake concern or Gordon's demands. We talked for hours, the room glowing with lamplight as night fell. Sally shared her own stories, her mom's pressure, her brother's selfishness, and we laughed, the kind of laugh that heals. She pulled out her phone, showing me a goofy video of her dog, Rufus, chasing his tail. I snorted, the sound surprising me. Here with Sally, I wasn't a burden or a pawn. I was Brenda, enough as is. I glanced at the photos on her wall, us at a music festival, grinning, me helping her paint this apartment. This was family, not the toxic dinner table I'd left. As I sipped my tea, I contrasted it with last night's dinner, Gordon's fist on the table, Marla's cold stare, Trudy's smirk. There every word was a jab, every glance a judgment. Here Sally's teasing about my revenge glow made me smile. I set my mug down, the ceramic warm against my palm. "Thanks, Sal," I said, voice low, "for being you." She waved it off, but her eyes were soft. "Always, Bren." I leaned back, the couch creaking, and felt something settle. I'd lost Gordon, Marla, and Trudy, but I'd gained this, a refuge where I belonged. Tomorrow I'd start building my new life, but tonight I was home, and that was enough. Sally's couch was my anchor that night, but by morning reality hit. Gordon, Marla, and Trudy wouldn't just vanish. I woke to my phone buzzing, 3 missed calls from Marla, 2 texts from Gordon, and a voicemail I didn't open. I sat at Sally's kitchen table, coffee steaming, and stared at the screen. "They're freaking out," Sally said, glancing over from the stove where she flipped pancakes. "Storage key probably arrived." I nodded, my stomach tight. The key, mailed yesterday, would have landed with a note. "Your stuff's here. Don't contact me." They'd know the house was gone, their plan in ashes. I sipped my coffee, the bitterness grounding me. "I need to shut this down for good," I said, voice low. Sally slid a plate of pancakes my way, her eyes steady. "You've got this. Set the line, hold it." I opened Gordon's texts. "Where's our stuff? Call me now." Marla's were softer, manipulative. "Brenda, we're worried. Let's talk." I deleted them, my thumb steady. No more games. I blocked their numbers, then Trudy's, my heart thudding but sure. It felt like locking a door I'd never reopen. Mid-morning, an email popped up from Marla, sent from a new address. "We're sorry if we upset you. Come home, we'll fix this." I laughed, cold and sharp, startling Sally. "They're sorry now?" I said, showing her. She snorted. "Too late, snakes," I typed back, fingers flying. "You plotted to steal Gran's house. I sold it. We're done. Don't email again." I hit send, my breath catching. Sally high-fived me, her grin wide. "That's the Brenda I know." I wasn't done. I called the storage company, confirming their stuff was secure, rent paid for a month, then it was their problem. The clerk, a bored guy named Vane, said, "Got it, no access without the key." I thanked him, my shoulders loosening. Next I contacted my lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Rita, who'd helped with the sale. "If they come after you legally, they've got nothing," she said, her voice crisp. "The house was yours, sales clean." I exhaled, the last thread of fear snapping. By afternoon I was back at Sally's, packing my bag. I'd stay with her until my Seattle move, but I needed boundaries here too. I sat Sally down, my hands clasped. "If they show up, don't engage," I said. She nodded, serious. "I've got your back, Bren." I hugged her, her warmth a contrast to Marla's clammy grip. I pictured Gordon's red face, Marla's fake tears, Trudy's pout. They'd try to claw me back, but I was a fortress now. My phone stayed quiet, their numbers blocked, my email filters set. I'd built a wall, and they'd never breach it. As I zipped my bag, I caught my reflection in Sally's mirror, eyes tired but fierce. I wasn't running, I was choosing. Gordon, Marla, and Trudy had lost their power, not because I'd screamed, but because I'd walked away. Seattle was next, a blank page. I'd carry Gran's strength, not their poison. For the first time, I felt solid, untouchable, ready. A week after cutting off Gordon, Marla, and Trudy, I was still at Sally's, my bags half-packed for Seattle. The quiet was new, no buzzing phone or manipulative emails, just me and my thoughts. I sat on Sally's balcony, a chilly Chicago breeze tugging at my scarf, and opened my laptop. The house sale money, $450,000, sat in my account, a lifeline but also a responsibility. Gran's voice echoed, "Make it mean something, Brenda." I wasn't just escaping. I was building something bigger, something they couldn't touch. That's when it hit me. I could use my story to help others avoid what I'd been through. I started researching financial abuse, my fingers flying across the keys. The stats were grim. 1 in 5 people manipulated by family over money. Trust shattered like mine. I remembered Marla's fake tears, Gordon's fist on the table, Trudy's smirk. They'd weaponized family to control me. But I'd fought back, and others could too. I sketched out a plan, a blog, maybe workshops to teach people how to spot manipulation and protect their assets. I'd call it Gran's legacy, a nod to her strength, not just the house. I spent hours drafting the first post, my coffee going cold. I'm Brenda Tilley, and my parents tried to steal my inheritance, I wrote, the words raw but true. I described the Barcelona betrayal, the secret sale, the recording, every gut-punch moment. My hands shook, but I kept going, weaving in tips. Check your deeds, hide your plans, trust your gut. By noon, I'd posted it on a free site, my heart pounding. Sally peeked over my shoulder, whistling. Bren, this is powerful. You're gonna save someone. The response was instant. Comments from strangers, stories mirroring mine, a brother bullied over a trust, a mom guilting a daughter for land. I read each one, my throat tight. I wasn't alone, and neither were they. I replied to every comment, my fingers sore but my resolve iron. You've got this, I typed to a woman named Carla. Set boundaries, get a lawyer. Sally brought me a sandwich, grinning. You're a hero, you know that? I laughed, shaking my head, but her words stuck. By evening, I'd signed up for a community center talk, a small step to share my story in person. I pictured Gran's proud nod, her calloused hands clapping. This wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my name, not as Gordon and Marla's burden, but as Brenda Tilley, the woman who turned pain into purpose. I closed my laptop, the balcony now dark, and felt a shift. The house was gone, but its legacy lived in me, in every person I'd help. I wasn't just surviving, I was rewriting what family meant on my terms, for me and for them. The Chicago skyline glittered beyond Sally's balcony, but I was inside now, curled up on her couch with a blanket, my laptop closed. It was late, the apartment quiet, except for Rufus snoring in his dog bed. A month had passed since I sold Gran's house, cut off Gordon, Marla, and Trudy, and started Gran's legacy. The blog was growing, the community center talk booked, and Seattle loomed, a new life waiting. But tonight, alone with my thoughts, I wasn't planning or fighting. I was reflecting, and for the first time, I felt peace, not anger. I sipped chamomile tea, the mug warm against my palms, and thought about Gran. She'd left me the house, but more than that, she'd left me her fire. I used to think my worth was tied to Gordon's approval or Marla's rare smiles. I'd twist myself into knots, hoping they'd see me. But their betrayal, those cruel words in Barcelona, their plot to steal what was mine, stripped away that illusion. I wasn't their burden. I was enough, always had been. I set the mug down, my hands steady, and smiled. It wasn't about them anymore. I glanced at a photo on Sally's fridge, me and her at a lake last summer, laughing, free. That was family. Sally's hugs, Rufus's goofy tail wags, the strangers online sharing their stories. I'd spent years chasing Gordon and Marla's love, but I'd found something better, self-respect, built on my terms. The money from the house was a tool, not a trophy. Gran's legacy wasn't just a blog. It was my promise to keep going, to turn my pain into purpose. I leaned back, the couch creaking, and exhaled. I was home, not in a place but in myself. The future felt open, not scary. Seattle would be new faces, new streets, but I'd carry Gran's strength and Sally's faith. I didn't need Gordon's rage, Marla's manipulation, or Trudy's smirks to define me. I closed my eyes, the city's hum faint through the window, and knew Brenda Tilley was whole, not because I'd won, but because I'd chosen me. Have you ever had to break free from someone who made you feel small? I'm Brenda, and sharing my story, selling Gran's house, exposing my parents' betrayal, and starting Gran's legacy, has shown me that freedom starts with self-respect. I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. What's helped you set boundaries or reclaim your worth? If my journey resonated, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear. It's okay to define success on their own terms. You're not alone, and you're stronger than you know. Let's keep lifting each other up, one story at a time.